Mr. Molesky,
Here.
Mr. Karstens,
Here.
Mr. Gentleman.
Here. All right, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Does staff have any changes to the agenda?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, thanks, Chris. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion from Ms. Lippert. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Foss. All right, board members, if you have any changes to the agenda, please state them when you're called upon by Teresa. Otherwise, vote yes or no to approve the agenda. Teresa, roll call, please.
Ms. Lippert,
Yes.
Ms. Foss,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Ms. Remke, Ms. Remke, if you would like, if you wanted to try to dial in to the meeting from your cell phone. Thank you. Mr. Molesky,
Yes.
Mr. Karstens,
Yes.
Mr. Gentleman.
Yes. Agenda motion is approved unanimously. We will move on to the approval of the minutes from the meeting of December 8th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 8th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the December 8th, 2020 meeting as submitted.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval from Mr. McAllister. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, with a second from Ms. Foss. Teresa, when you do roll, I am going to abstain from voting because I was not present at the meeting. But you can call me and I will state that at the time. Roll call, please, Teresa.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lippert,
Yes.
Ms. Foss,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Ms. Remke, are you on the line with us yet? She may still be dialing in. We'll give her another minute. Mr. Molesky,
Yes.
Mr. Karstens,
Yes.
and Mr. Gentleman.
I abstain.
Thank you.
Are we waiting for Ms. Rimke? Ms.
No,
Rimke,
sir.
could you give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Or what, we lost her, I think. Well, we have quorum on that vote, so we will proceed. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 yeas and 1 abstain. So.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Remke, we can hear you. If you would mute your video device. I mean, keep your video on, but whatever device that is, make sure the volume is on.
Okay. So we'll move on with a vote of 5 yeas and 1 no vote and 1 abstain for approval of the minutes. Next item, citizen comments. Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public comments concerning agenda items were submitted electronically via the Open Town Hall portal. Those comments were provided to the board for review and made part of the official record. In addition to commenting on the portal, citizens could call into the meeting to give public comments However, we don't have any citizens on the call today.
All right, thank you. Uh, Chris, question for you.
Yes, sir.
We were provided with a sheet from the citizen comments online, but there wasn't really anything. There was one person, and they were all just kind of yes or no answers. Do we need to read those, or I think this is the first time we've had this.
Do we need to read?
Do we need to respond to those, read them? No?
They have been entered into the record and
Okay.
will be included in the documentation of this meeting. There is no need to read them unless
Okay.
you or the board decide otherwise.
I don't think there's anything of consequence or controversial in there, so we'll move on from that.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave
Yeah.
that, just one other item one other issue pertaining to that I think is important. Please understand that your meetings are public meetings, but you're not making, your decisions don't have to be based on public opinion.
Okay, we can all be thankful for that. All right. Oh boy, that was recorded, wasn't it? Just kidding. Let's move on to new business. We have first item, new development final. Fern IM's Restaurant, DRB number 000876-2020. And Chris, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project received conceptual approval on October 8th of 2019. The applicant is seeking final approval of the building that will be an Amish-style restaurant. The existing building on the site will be demolished and replaced with the new restaurant. The building/restaurant will have a residential feel with a screened porch on the front and outdoor dining patio on the right side. There will be a to-go window on the opposite side of the new building. The proposed roof is Galvalume Plus, which is similar to the USCB building across Greenwood Drive. Exterior walls of the structure will be flood-proof to 15-foot mean sea level to meet floodplain requirements. There is a shared parking agreement that accommodates the LMO requirements for parking. The dumpster will be located in the front of the building. Based on previous conceptual approval, staff recommends final approval. And I'm sorry, So your screen is showing the survey, the existing survey, and this is the building that will be demolished, and the parking area is out here. This is the demolition plan. To be demolished are the sidewalks as well. The site plan, the proposed site plan with the new building and sidewalk connections. An illustration of the grading around the site. The grading, it should be noted that grading is compliant with the LMO requirements. Floor plan for the new restaurant. Elevations of the restaurant. The top is the front elevation. You can see the screened-in porch. And this is the side elevation, the left side elevation with the to-go window. Rear elevation at the top and the opposite side where the patio is. Of note are the rolling doors here for service. a roof plan and a detail of the dumpster enclosure, sections through the wall, specifically on the left-hand side at those rolling windows. More window and wall sections. Again, the floor plan as it relates to the sidewalk and patio. Sorry, we're getting something. I'm sorry, that last two were duplicates. The proposed landscape plan. Just some details, the bike rack detail here. The flood proofing, how that will be handled. Illustrations, the following are cut sheets from the rolling door manufacturer that were provided by the applicant. This is a wall-mounted sconce light, exterior sconce light that's being proposed, along with the pendant fixture and a can light. All of them meet the 3000 color temp requirement. Proposed ceiling fan on the porch. Proposed pavers. Again, I'm sorry, that's some more ceiling fan details. Columns. Screening for the porch, the proposed screening for the porch. While it won't be the structure, but this is the screen that's going to be used. And the frame for the screen. The proposed awning. And an elevation of the building with the proposed colors. There were larger samples available for your review starting Friday over the weekend at Town Hall. And that concludes staff's presentation. Again, the recommendation is for final approval based on the DRB's previous conceptual approval.
All right, thank you, Chris. Is the applicant present?
Yes,
If you would please identify yourself for the record.
Jeff Kramer. I'm the architect. I'd like to thank the review board for their dedication to the town of Hilton Head also.
All right, thank you, Jeff. You have a 10-minute window. If Teresa, you would start the timer to add or discuss anything from Chris's narrative, and then please hang around as we will go through the board members, and they may have questions for you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chris did a wonderful job showing the building or describing the building. things I could add would probably be, we tried to respond to all the review board comments previously, and we're also trying to make the building work with the day's new demands on restaurants, having takeout windows, open up outside areas so people can social distance properly. Other than that, we're trying to blend in with the community the best we can, and we'd like to open a restaurant. But I'll just wait to hear y'all's questions and comments, and I'll be happy to respond to any of y'all.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will go through the board members. Mr. McAllister, would you start us off?
First of all, I think you've done a great job responding to comments from the meeting, over a year ago. I think the building looks great. I believe you've addressed most of the site comments that came up in our previous meeting. I think the landscape plan looks fine. And I'll just go ahead and say I'm on board with the red color. I think it's dark enough and it's not a dominant color on any side of the building. So I'm good with the colors and the materials. One question I did have, are you guys planning on adding any light fixtures to the parking lot, or are you just going to retain whatever's existing?
Not at this time. We're not planning on adding any to the parking lot unless we haven't really studied it yet. If we do, I'm sure we'd get town approval. But as far as we know, we're kind of try to keep it subtle and have the building just lit on the outside with sconces and, subtle lighting.
Okay. All right. I think it looks great. I don't really have much to add. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. Mr. Karstens?
I'll piggyback on what Mr. McCullough has said as far as it being a nice comprehensive set. The only questions I would have, the sidewalk at the rear of the building, I know there's an existing walk that pretty much goes to a ditch. Is the intent to connect it to the backside of the Bermuda Triangle area? If so, I mean, it'd be great to have some detail, some information on that. And if so, I think there's going to need to be some planting kind of addressing that. But right now, it looks like that, if it's going to be the way it is, going to pretty much to nowhere, then that's fine. But if that's going to be improved, it's almost like another access or another, approach to this building that would want to be addressed. Currently you can't really see much of this building, the existing building, from that side. Is the thought that you really want to try to connect to that other side?
We haven't addressed that. I'm not, I don't think right now we're just trying to move the project forward. I know what you're just talking about, the pathway in the back that goes to nowhere. It was just there, I guess, when the original development was done. But it would be I'm not sure. We'd have to work it out with the neighbors and everything else. So it's something we didn't really want to try to encompass with this as part of our design right now. But I'm sure we'd have to go through the town if we did it at a separate time, because it's got to be, neighbors have got to agree to it also, I would think. So it's one of those things.
Okay. I just didn't know if I saw the pavement was being adjusted for that current sidewalk.
I see. And it just makes it a little more comfortable to walk down there
I'll just say that if in the future that does connect or something does happen where that buffer thins out, they'll just want to make sure that in whatever happens with that, there'll have to be some planting to address that. And then finally, when it comes to that patio side, the buffering is good between the parcels. I'm a little concerned about the grade dropping off from this dining patio down into that swale. So I wouldn't be opposed to swapping out some of that plant material for more podocarpus, say a hedge, especially in the area where you might have seating, to at least give you a little height on that patio side. And I would say that if you anticipate on doing some exterior lighting, even some like say path level lighting, that edge of the patio would probably benefit from that, just to help. I know there'll be seating and such associated with that edge, but it will just help to secure, kind of keep people from falling off, since the grade does kind of roll off on that side, or especially around that pine tree that's going to stay. And I know the lorope right there is shown as kind of the edger along the pathway. But beyond that, I would say is maybe I'd like to see at least, again, like I said, you could use the podocarpus that you've used on the other side of the building to help present an edge for that patio.
That's a good
But
idea.
other than that,
The customers, I'm sure, from, running off or anything else. So it's a great idea.
yeah, no,
I don't know.
and really, I like. No, and like I said, you've definitely addressed buffering the property from the adjacent, which is excellent. I just was thinking on the way of safety and just presenting a nice edge. But otherwise, everything looks great. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Chad. Ms. Lippert.
I have to admit, I had a bit of trouble with the drawing. While I pulled up the conceptual submittal, and the only real significant difference I was seeing is the addition of a couple of wall sections. So for me, I'm lacking a fair amount of information. For instance, if we look at this drawing, I really don't have any information on what that bracket, what the dimensions are, how it's detailed. I have no idea about overhangs, how the gutters are drained. I am just really not seeing enough information for a final submittal for me to be able to provide or to vote for approval. If we kind of go through, like I said, on the cut sheets, I'm seeing that fans are called out to be white, which typically is not a color that we tend to favor. I'm seeing the cut sheet on the clamshell awnings, which to me are not a low country vernacular, and I don't know where they are located. Couldn't find that in the drawings. If I go to and sorry, Chris, for moving so quickly. Thank you for trying to keep up with me. If we go to the elevations, I'm assuming that it's an open truss element at sort of the entry. So again, that would be an area where I would want to see what the underside treatment is, what material, what color. There's nothing about what the batten spacing is that I could find. I couldn't find, and it may have been tucked in a cut sheet, window colors, window and door trim colors. It appears that the service yard on the back elevation is lower than the detached one, but I only saw a 6-foot dimension as far as the service yard. On the east elevation, I'm seeing 2 elements that perhaps are downspouts, but again, I couldn't find them in the other views, and I couldn't see them identified as such. On the, let's see here. So I'm not seeing enough information for me to be able to provide or to vote for approval. I also think it's drawn as though it's on dead level ground, where we know it is coming up about 2 feet, if I read that correctly. So those are all aspects to me, and while certainly not a DRB aspect, I guess a thought or recommendation would be, just based on past experience, that flood-proofing that much of the building can prove to be very expensive. So I'm just assuming that. I guess my question would be, in case that ends up being not a direction to go and the building would have to get elevated, then of course the elevations would change dramatically. So I'm just kind of throwing that out as a caveat. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Jeff, you feel like you need to respond to anything from that? Mr. Kramer?
I would.
You don't have to. I'm just offering.
Yeah, I could, but it would take a long time, and but I think I'll pass.
Okay. Okay, we will. We'll continue. Mr. Molesky. Oh, thank you, Annette. Mr. Molesky.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, boy, after hearing what Annette had to say, it kind of opened up my eyes a little bit more. I was just going to question a little bit about the dumpster screening material. Is that board and batten like you have on your siding, or is that some type of metal product?
It's pressure treated wood painted to match the building.
Okay, so if I look at one of the elevations of your building, I'm sure Chris can grab it there. So you have stucco on the bottom half, board and batten, which is probably like a Hardy product with a 1x3 board and batten above it, and then you have your metal roof.
Right.
And then on the dumpster, now that's introducing a vertical 1x6 or something to that effect is what that is drawn.
It's thicker than 1x6. It's heavier pressure treated material that's last a lot longer than that.
And that is to be painted the same color as the trim then?
Right. It's all painted to match together. I mean, it's
okay. So when I'm looking at the service yard portion that appears to be attached to the building, that's also the same pressure treated material, whether you use 6x6 post and however you frame it, whatever. But the vertical components of it is what I was alluding to. That's all pressure treated as well?
Yeah.
Okay, as opposed to trying to emulate the board and batten on the siding, this is just introducing another material?
Well, the siding is raised up off the ground, and I don't like to stick it in the ground, so I'd rather have something else down there. So yes, is the answer.
Okay.
I don't run siding into the ground on buildings, so sorry.
Mm-hmm. And is there, I guess, no need for any ADA ramp? For somehow I'm remembering back to maybe their preliminary submittal or something, and some discussions on an ADA ramp.
Right, we checked that. The slope was less than 1 to. It was not. It was less than 1 to 20, which means we didn't have to have a ramp. We checked the code on that.
Okay, so I'll take care of that.
Slope, you
okay. And then the last comment or question I was going to have, again, related to the awnings. I guess the little cut sheet that you showed there on the awnings, again, to Annette's point, it doesn't necessarily seem to fit the the vernacular, if you will, of the rest of them. So the design that I see up above in those two pictures, is that the actual design of that, or that just happened to be on the same sheet of paper that has the color selections?
Yeah, that was just where the colors are. Those things have nothing. Awnings have nothing to do with this project.
Okay.
It's just that we're on the cut sheet. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Would you be kind enough to switch to an elevation that shows where the awnings would?
One
guess I'm still lost trying to, everything I see here appears to be roof
Right.
with metal.
Right. It's built just the awnings. Only we don't have an awning. We have overhang over the bar area outside that matches the way the building's constructed. With galvalume, and we have brackets under it.
Okay, so maybe I was just thrown off by that cut sheet with the color on there and what was reflected there in the awnings.
We don't have any awning, so to speak. Roof overhang, bracket.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm good. I'll just sit back and listen to others at this point, and we'll go from there. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sean, Ms. Remke.
So they're talking among themselves.
Debbie, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, we got you now. Your turn.
Oh, okay. All right. In listening to everybody else, I think they've touched on the points that I wanted to touch on. So I think this is going to be a nice building. I think it's pretty, and I will vote for approval.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. Ms. Foss.
When this project first showed up, and I kind of mirror Ms. Limpert's, there were just so many cut sheets thrown at us. I couldn't tell what color some of the trim was going to be. I couldn't tell which one of the garage doors they were going to be using. And I didn't even get into the details that Ms. Lippert was talking about, not showing the dimensions on things. John brought up a really good point about us not having any idea what the dumpster cover and the service yard was pointed out as. And I really have a problem with the red color and the silver roof. I think it's just too much, especially in that area. I looked at the color boards on Friday and it was still foggy out, and I felt like the amount of roof that this building has on it was still too shiny. And then I just think there's too much red, and I don't think that it goes with the neighborhood. That's me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy. All right, my turn. Okay, so there is a service, John, Mr. Molesky, there is a service fence detail. Is that what you were referring to? It's on sheet A3, I believe.
Okay, and I must have missed that. I believe that maybe just looking at the picture there,
Yeah.
I was unclear if it was a metal galvanized product or if it was trying to be more of a board and batten that was maybe held,
Yeah, it's
a couple inches off the ground.
It looks like from that detail in the upper left, I can blow it up on my iPad here. It's a
I see it now.
2x6 pressure treated cap. You got rails in them. It's an old sea pines detail.
I see it now.
And then those vertical boards are spaced and staggered inside between outside, so you can't see all the way through. So
Gotcha.
they did provide a detail of that, which is, so that's an acceptable detail that you see all over the island.
Thank you.
So that one was covered. I still don't understand the clamshell. Mr. Kramer, what you're saying is that cut sheet shouldn't even be in here with that clamshell cut sheet?
It just shows the color of the extrusions for the porch. That's all it's for.
All right, so the extrusions are, if we can go to,
I think we passed.
we can go to that.
Yeah, that's the extrusion, and the colors are on that other sheet that showed the awning clamshell things. That's the color of the extrusion.
Okay, so there is no clamshell awnings on here. Okay, so that
No
answers.
clamshell anywhere, I promise. Never.
That one was thrown there because I was looking all over for it, just like Miss Lippert was.
We could have cut that off. I never thought about that before. I was just trying to get
so it's the color. Gotcha.
the color
Okay,
of the extrusion.
Now that makes sense to me. So your another thing I had trouble in, I think Ms. Foss duly noted it, is we just got thrown a lot of cut sheets, but I don't know that all the answers are there. What are the window frames and the overhead door frame colors? Are they shown what those are? And do they match? And your doors, windows, and overhead door.
They were all called out to be the same gray matter colors, so they'll have to be painted that color or whatever, or some that color. Gray matter is the trim color, the windows.
Okay. So that is. I don't see it noted on here, so that would have to be in. That would have to be in a condition. A condition. If this moves for approval. The pavers. What were the selection on the pavers?
They were pervious pavers. It was
Which color?
Standard colors. It was a gray color. I don't know if I can read it. Oh,
It's called out in the detail as the granite color. I think I saw
granite.
it.
That's correct. Sorry, I should have had this in. I didn't bring it.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to I tend to be fine with the building. I think the building overall is fine. I'm kind of back and forth on the red color. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback from somebody. Sorry. Okay. Flippers. Bracket detail. So the bracket detail was missing. Gutters. You answered the window and door color question. Generally looking for more info on the details. Ms. Lippert makes some really good points. And are the windows and doors, are they aluminum clad?
Right. The bracket's just 6x6 re-dried pressure treated material. I mean, it's not a unknown. It's drawn that way. I guess we didn't put the note on there. I apologize.
Okay.
But it's
yeah,
a 6
notes help.
to be painted to match.
And your front door, is that all solid? Or is that glass in there?
Usually have glass at that's a glass front door at the top. The panel on the bottom's a solid panel. But it'll be panels solid at the bottom, glass at the top.
Okay, and gutters and downspouts. They're on the wall section, but not noted anywhere else that I can see.
They're Galvalume. They're made out of Galvalume material that match the roof. Everything matches the roof color. All the.
And okay, all right. Miss Lippert, with any of those answers, does that help you out any, or do you still need more information?
At this point, I mean, my vote hasn't changed, and the more I look at it, for instance, if I look at the wall section of the screened-in area, I'm trying to figure out, I guess it's saying that the railing is outside of the screen, and then there's some horizontal elements. I can't tell what is what material. Maybe that railing is all extruded aluminum, so I still feel there's insufficient information for a final approval.
Okay. And anyone else feel that direction? I'm just trying to gauge if Ms. Foss does, and I know Ms. Foss does not like the color. I think everyone else was at least generally on board with the colors. Nobody else mentioned that. Just trying to see if we can negotiate a motion here, or if we should. So I had Mr. McAllister, Mr. Carsons, Ms. Grimke, and Mr. Molesky mostly on board with 2 dissenters. So, and usually I look to the person who had the most comments, which would be Ms. Lippert in this case. Do you feel you could make a motion for approval with conditions? Okay. So, okay. Well, I'm gonna throw it out there. Would anyone like to make a motion for approval or otherwise? If not, if I don't get a motion, I'm gonna ask the applicant to come back with more details and get rid of some of these cut sheets and tighten everything up for a final review. Unless someone would like to make a motion.
I'd be willing to make a motion, but are we going to request that additional details and information is provided that could be reviewed by another board member?
Yeah, that we've been kind of we've been kind of using that as a crutch lately. I think I'm guilty of it too. The 2 board member review thing. I think I'd probably be willing to look at it. I'd be one of the board members if you'd like to make that motion.
Okay, well, I will make a motion regarding.
Okay, Mr. McAllister is going to make a motion for the record.
Make a motion regarding Fern Ian's Restaurant, DRB 00876-2020, for approval with the following conditions: that additional details be provided that show wall connections and bracket details with dimensions that can be reviewed and approved by 2 DRB board members. That additional landscape be provided along the planned north patio edge, and clarification provided on the color of the doors, windows, and trim. Does that cover everything that was discussed outside of Ms. Lippert and Ms. Foss's comments?
Okay. All right. We have any discussion on the motion? All right. We have a motion from Mr. McAllister. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chris.
I'm concerned about this motion failing, excuse me. So I'm wondering I guess if the motion doesn't pass, then it has to go back for another motion, right? Because this is a motion for approval. And if the motion for approval doesn't pass, then, right, can you
I don't have a second yet.
I'm sorry?
I don't have I didn't get any discussion on the motion, and I don't have a second yet. So if we don't get a second motion, I will give everyone a chance for a different motion. And if we don't get that, then I would suggest that the applicant withdraw.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. I as always, I don't want to kill anybody's project. So I usually try to keep score as we're going through. So if anyone else is, Ms. Foss.
I think we put a lot of onus on the 2 board members who are asked to go back in when they resubmit everything to find all the details that we're missing. In this case, there's a lot. And there's a lot that needs to be cleaned up, but I think that's too much to put on 2 board members and the staff. That's my opinion.
Okay, it's Ms. Lippert.
I also just want to say, it's not that I have anything fundamentally against the project. I just think there is not enough detail for final approval.
Okay.
That's my main concern about it.
Yeah, I think that's a valid, and the more you've spoken, the more I'm agreeing with you. I would say to the applicant that this is a passable project if we could just get all the details and get the information cleaned up. I think it would. Best I can tell, there was only one strong opposition to the red color, and I think that's really the only controversial part of the project. So. Chris, would you explain, please, for the record, what happens if we don't get a motion or it gets voted down versus withdrawing?
Yes. Jeff, I think we've talked about this in the past, but just so for the record, so everybody understands, if a project gets denied, you're prevented on coming back to the DRB for a full year per the Land Management Ordinance, the LMO. So what happens is, if it looks like it's going to go south, then you, as the applicant, have the opportunity to withdraw the application and preserve your ability to come back to the DRB as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're going to have to have a discussion about what substantially changing a project is. So I think the concern is that you're not going to get an approval at this time.
So I would recommend withdrawing, and then if you do, Mr. McAllister will have to, the motion will die on the vine, but Mr. McAllister will have the opportunity to withdraw it or keep it on record. So it's going to put you on the spot, Mr. Kramer. What would you like to do? Would you like us to continue with the motion, or would you like to withdraw?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, Jeff.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not trying to complicate things, but it's staff's consensus that David McAllister he's got a motion on the table that we need to address prior to any decision from Jeff.
Okay, Mr. McAllister, would you like to keep your motion on the table or withdraw it at this time? If this continues, you will have the opportunity to re-motion.
So I could make a new motion, because my opinion on the project hasn't changed, but I do want what's best in the best interest of the applicant. So I guess I'll withdraw my motion, and then does that mean that if the applicant would like to see it go forward with the motion, I could remake the motion?
Yes. If the applicant would like to continue, I will go to you first.
Okay. All right. Well, I will formally withdraw my motion.
Okay. All right. Chris, the motion's been withdrawn, so we have an open slate here for the applicant.
So now, Mr. Kramer, you need to make a decision if you want to move forward with this vote, or how you want to proceed.
Right, I understand. Um, it's hard to make that decision right this second. I know my client wants to move forward, but he's, like you said, it could be a problem. So, and we have been trying desperately to get this thing. We had a lot of stuff we thought we answered, but I guess we didn't answer enough. The engineer took a long time, blah, blah, blah. But, so if I do withdraw the project, when can we see it again?
As soon as you'd like to get it back in. No, we're not regulating any timetable here other than Chris can tell you what day it needs to be in to make the next meeting, et cetera.
Right.
But you're just taking, you're just giving us more details and make sure everything's noted. We're not asking you to move the building, to change the building.
Okay.
We're really not asking for any changes. We're just asking you to give us enough information to make sure that we know what's there.
Yeah, you want it cleaned up in more detail. Yes, sir. I can. I will definitely do the. I will motion to table it until I resubmit it again.
To be clear,
So just somewhere in there, use the word
withdraw.
I withdraw.
Application. Yeah, sorry about that. I remember.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the the pickiness of it, but we have to make sure the words are right.
Correct. I meant.
All right. So it has been withdrawn, and we'll like I said, I think it's a very approvable project. Just please give us a little more information. We hope to see you soon. I'll give you one last chance for any direct questions you might have.
I'll just get more precise on the detailing of the building. I understand what your points are, and I'll get it back to you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll move on.
Mr. Chairman, one other thing before we move on, staff appreciates your making a differentiation between withdrawal and tabling. Those are two very different things, and I appreciate that distinction.
Yeah, I learned it from you, so you get the credit. All right, next project, alteration addition, Hargrave building repaint. DRB 002611-2020. Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is seeking approval of the following alterations to the Hargrave's main central office at 856 F William Hilton Parkway. Number one, the south eyebrow to remove the old cedar shake siding that is in disrepair and replace it with hardy plank siding. The siding will be installed in a lap siding style as shown in the data sheet and photo with 4-inch vertical trim board on all corners. I'm sorry, excuse me. 2, paint the entire building functional gray, which is Sherwin-Williams 7024. This color was approved for the exterior of the Hargrave building at 862A William Hilton Parkway, which is their retail shop. Staff thinks the replacement of the wood shingles and lap siding is a detail inconsistent with the architecture of the building. The eyebrow should be finished with a detail more in keeping with that architectural element. The applicant should consider vertical siding, board and batten, or horizontal siding, shingle, or shake. Sherwin-Williams 7024 functional gray is in keeping with the design guide, but because of the proposed changes to the shingles, staff recommends denial.
All right, thank you, Chris.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Let me get to there's not much in the application. So here's the proposed lap siding that was provided, the detail that was provided to staff. This would go on the eyebrow, which is pictured, well, you can see it at the top of this screen, but a better picture is right there. So that concludes the presentation.
All right. Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, sir.
You please identify yourself for the record.
My name is David Steiger. I am the facility and construction supervisor for Hargrave.
Thank you. Would you like to, oh, I'm sorry, Teresa, could you start the timer? You have up to 10 minutes if you'd like to add anything to Chris's narrative.
Just a few things. I know that this building has been here for a long time. This was the original Hargrave building where every telephone and cable system comes in and out of, and it's still that to this day. Anything that comes to the island and goes to any business phone or ATM all goes through this building. So we're here for the long haul, and this building is not going to go away or be torn down or vacated at any time. We did a remodel to building 862A and the interior of 856, this building. And now we're just wanting to clean up and dress up the outside of the building to make it look presentable, because it's still like a yellow color stucco that's outside. This cedar is the only wood that's on the building. I think the longest run I got is about 32 feet, and the other ones are 22 and 10 feet. So it doesn't amount to a lot of siding. It was just something that I felt that wouldn't deteriorate as quickly and would still blend in with the cosmetics of all the other buildings along the corridor.
All right. Thank you very much. If you would please hang around, and we will
Sure.
Go through the board for their comments. Mr. McAllister.
All right. As far as the building paint color, I'm on board with that. I think that'll look nice. I do tend to agree with staff's assessment regarding the hardy plank siding. To me, it doesn't seem, I don't know, architecturally appropriate there. I'd be curious to hear what our architects think. They may be a little better versed in speaking to some of the architectural detailing. And I'm kind of curious, like, what happens when it hits the top? Like, how does the siding get terminated? And I saw like that metal, I don't know if that was metal roof or just metal flashing at the top. My take is I think staff's recommendations are probably more in keeping with the design guidelines. So that's my take. I'm good with the paint color, but I think maybe reevaluate the eyebrow.
Yes,
Thank you.
the metal flashing is holding the rubber roof down where it comes up. Like, it's almost like not quite a parapet wall, but there is a curbing there between the flat roof and where the top of that eyebrow is. And I do have that metal all the way around. I had the roof redone a couple years ago, and they used the colonial red color for the flashing. That was approved by the building department also.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, David. Mr. Karstens.
I'm on board with David and staff. Although I'll say is, looking at the building in street view and driving the corridor, it is a very minor section of that, but it is really the only detail that really stands out on that building. Otherwise, you have the big box building behind it that attaches to it. So, this is kind of a nice component to that structure, and I really see it as a roof. So hopefully, the shape looks good. I know it's tough when the adjacent structures have the full metal roof, but I'd be in alignment with staff as far as just requesting a little more detail and maybe even keeping with the shape that's existing. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jed. Ms. Lippert?
I completely agree both with staff and what Mr. Carstens just said. To me, this is conceptually a roof element and therefore, in my mind, should be treated as such. I would be fine with it being replaced with shingle or shake. I would be fine with a standing seam roof, which the adjacent building has. And so in that sense, treating it like a roof, not like a facade element is what I would recommend. I also have no issues with the repainting color, but that eyebrow needs to maybe get looked at again for different treatments.
All right. Thank you, Annette. Mr. Molesky?
Yeah, same thing. I like the shake, and if you had commented that there's really not that much material, then I would think from an expense point of view, whether it gets replaced with new cedar shake and or replaced with a metal roof. I don't necessarily see that being that cost prohibitive, especially if the metal roof ties in with the adjacent building. Thank you.
Mr. Molesky, you're fine with the color?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, John. Ms. Rimke?
I think you have to unmute me. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I agree with the color of the building, that's fine. It's almost like a mansard roof, but it isn't quite big enough. But I do think it needs a roof treatment rather than siding. I would be happy with a shingle that complemented the color of the building, or standing seam, or replacing the shakes. I think that's the way that we need to treat this. And also, when we replace this, I heard that the trim cap is a red. I think that we need to replace it with a color that matches whatever material goes on the roof. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Well, the red trim color was approved by the building department less than 2 years ago when I replaced the roof all the way on that building.
Can you hear me?
That is a metal flashing that's holding the rubber down. So that was submitted and approved.
By the building department, not by the design review board, correct?
I'm not exactly sure. I left it in the hands of my roofing contractor.
Well, I think one of the things that the design review board has to look at is colors and what's
right.
complementary to the rest of the island. I would really like to see, and this might be personal opinion, but I would really like to see something that's a little bit closer to whatever the material becomes on the roof itself, rather than a high contrasting color.
Ms. Remke, this is Chris Darnell, town staff. Ms. Remke is correct. Any color change or material change in the corridor needs approval from the design review board.
Right.
And just one more.
Oh. Go ahead, Debbie.
Am I still on? Okay.
Yes.
Just one more comment. Whatever material you put on there, you have to take that cap off anyway, and it won't be usable. So match it to whatever the material is that we put on the roof.
Okay. Good point. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Ms. Foss?
To the applicant, is it true that you'd have to remove your flashing to put the new siding on or roofing?
That's not correct. They could just slip it up underneath it. It's just sitting on there to hold the metal, the rubber roof on. But that red was pre-existing even before we even replaced the roof. And also the design review board approved a sun-dried tomato red for the Nishi-Ha panels on A62. So we were just following suit with the same color gray and the same red that's on this, that we want to do with this building.
Again, this is Chris Darnell with town staff. All approvals are specific to the site, and just because something was approved at one site doesn't necessarily mean that it will get approved elsewhere. It's up to the board's decision.
Given that,
Go ahead, Kathy. Continue, Kathy. Sorry.
to the applicant, can you paint that flashing, or would that just render it unuseful?
It would probably have to come off, but this isn't the only place where that flashing is on. It's on the whole building. It was a pre-existing color that was already approved many years ago. And we just went back with the same color because it was approved to go back with the same flashing and color. We tore off one roof and then put the flashing back on, the same color flashing back on. We had it custom bent and placed on there.
I am of the feeling that it's okay that his flashing kind of matches what we approved for the other building with that red entryway across this way. I agree. I like the gray color, and I agree that what everyone is calling an eyebrow should be a roof material, and I like the idea of it being standing metal seam so that it goes along, continuing the idea that everything on their campus is going to start matching. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Okay, I have a general submittal question. When we're dealing with colors, and this is sort of directed toward, not towards Chris, but in your general direction, why did we get black and white photographs when it's a color submittal? That's we can't tell what's red, and we can't tell if the shakes are natural color. I've driven by the building 10,000 times, but the information, moving forward, at least in my mind, the information in the set should convey the intent of what they want to do without anybody ever going to the site. Now, we should go to the site, or we've been to the building, or we've been to the restaurant before, what have you. But in something like this, if somebody sends us a black and white photo, you should reject it for future reference. And just for those reasons.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, that's a very good point, and I understand, and you're correct. I agree.
Okay.
That was what was provided this time, but it won't get through the next time.
Okay, thank you. And also on the top of that, we can't tell from this submittal whether there's 500 feet of this or the 20 feet we can see in the pictures. So we have no idea what the scope is, what the color is. So I agree with staff that this submittal, as submitted, would get denied. Now, if we move forward on the different discussions of what this should be, yes, I agree with everyone that said it's a roof. It should be treated like a roof. Generally, I think you should probably just replace the shakes, since that's what was there. If we do a standing seam metal roof, does that standing seam to the, let me see here. I think Annette brought it up first. So I'll address this to Annette. If they did standing seam below that flashing cap, is the standing seam now red, like the flashing cap, Annette, or is it a different color? I think there's too many questions. I would like your thought on that, though.
That's where I definitely agree with. I definitely agree with Ms. Remke. If it's standing seam, to me, that coping flashing has to be the same color as the standing seam. If the direction is in the shake, obviously that topic doesn't come up. But yeah, if it's standing seam coping and standing seam have to be the same color in my mind.
Okay. And yeah, and give Ms. Remke credit for that comment that about the flashing. So, that's a long-winded answer to me saying I think the submittal is insufficient to begin with. And for me not to vote it down, I would need it. I need more information. All right. Anybody on the second round, Mr. Molesky?
I just wanted to ask the portion there that has the shake on it, is that more or less a vertical plane? And if so, is this re-roof an opportunity to create some type of slope? So if it were to become a standing seam metal roof, that it would resemble some type of pitch instead of a vertical element, so it reads more like a roof. And I don't know how relevant that is to what
No,
we were to provide.
there's no pitch on it whatsoever. It's completely vertical. Like I said, where you see that that metal trim up there, there is a bit of a curb from the flat roof. That's where this eyebrow is.
Mhm.
And there's roof drains, and that's been completely redone with a new rubber roof about 2 years ago. The
So
whole
really, it's
building,
more of a parapet almost. It looks like maybe
almost, it's not
30
quite
inches in
high.
height.
It's not quite high enough to be a parapet, but there is a little bit of a curb where that flashing is. That's holding the rubber roof on the
Okay.
inside of that flashing.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So,
We kind of
reading the room
considered
again.
it more of a siding than a roof, actually, because there's no water that runs down. I'm sure that if the roof drains get clogged up or something, there is probably some water that runs down that. So, but I never took that into consideration, it being more of a roof than siding.
Thank
Okay.
you. And then I also wanted to ask the soffit. Is there anything to that as far as finishes or color?
No, actually, the soffit is just, it looks like just the stucco that's on the rest of the building.
So that will be painted to match the stucco color?
Yes. And if we can't do the cedar, I would just want to go ahead and just paint the building instead. And
By that, do the
Mr.
applicant,
Molesky, wait, hold on. Mr. Molesky, are you finished?
For now, yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Ms. Foss, do you have something?
can the applicant clarify what he meant if you can't replace the cedar, you would just paint the whole thing? What did you mean by that?
well, our intention was to paint the building. I just thought that the cedar right now has no finish on it whatsoever, never's been painted. It's just cedar shakes that was put up and weathered over the years. I thought it'd be okay I thought it would look nice to dress it up. If that's not the case, then we would probably just paint the building. And I don't know if we would paint the cedar shakes also, or just go ahead and just paint the stucco of the building and get that done and clean up around the building, is what my original intention is.
Okay, well, if that's the intention, then you'll have to resubmit this with the intended scope, and we need to know. I mean, even a faraway shot that shows how big the building is. We're repainting the building, but from what we're viewing, we can't discern the condition of the building, how big the building is, how it looks next to the building next to it, any of that. We need some context, and then we would need what your final direction would be, which based on the comments of the board members would be to replace the shakes with new shakes or go with a standing seam.
Well,
Everybody's fine with the building color.
you're going with the intention to replace the shakes or with shingles because you believe this is part of a roof application, correct?
again, we can't really tell because we don't have enough information. So we're not going on, I'm not going on record as saying that I think this is a roof because I can't tell.
Yeah, and I don't
There's
really
just
want
not
to go
enough
with
information.
I don't want to go with standing seam because we sold the building that's adjacent to it to the Hilton Head Community Church, and we're trying to distinguish our buildings from theirs. So if you notice that our buildings are going to be a gray and theirs are still a tan color of whatever they're painting them after they get done with their renovation.
All
But
right,
so at this time, I'd like to withdraw my application for this so I
Okay.
could get you more information and resubmit.
All right,
I think
thank
that
you
would
very
be
much.
obviously the best thing to do.
All right.
Okay, I
Okay,
appreciate
thank,
your time.
thank you, David. Thank you for your time. All right, everybody. See if we can. Next item, Graco Edition DRB 002627-2020. Chris, turn it over to you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'm sorry, 1 minute, please. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. This project was previously reviewed by the DRB on December 8th last year and was withdrawn at the applicant's request prior to a vote. The applicant is proposing the addition of a lumber rack on the back side of the Graco building on Palmetto Bay Road. This is a pre-engineered structure that will go on top of the existing paved parking lot. Elevations have been revised to address board comments during the previous review. So what you see here are pictures of the site. This is the back looking towards Palmetto Bay Road, and the cars in this area, that's where the rack is proposed to go. So the existing vegetation from the edge of the parking to, sorry, is it Archer? To the road would remain. Again, this is out on Archer looking back in towards the service area of the existing building. Moving down the road, there's the side of the building. Off to the right is where the storage area would go in this area. Looking back towards Arrow Road, you can see there's some substantial existing vegetation in that buffer. This is the proposed layout, new layout. Again, this is the existing building on this side that they're remodeling, and the unit, manufactured storage unit area would be right here. A close-up of that area. Again, the road is off to the right, the parking lot with the loading area in the back, and this is the new lumber storage shed. A close-up of the renovations, interior renovations proposed for the building. Elevations of the building on, as you can see right here on the side. So it would be stucco from the bottom up with a horizontal, the metal panels mounted horizontally here, and then 90 degrees to, that mount would be 90 degrees on the roof. There is a stucco wall between the existing building and the proposed lumber shed. And there is stucco fence. Again, this is the back side, a stucco fence to enclose that behind the structure, the proposed structure. This is the proposed panel that will be used. Section through that metal rack. landscape plan, they're proposing the addition of two sizes of cedar trees to complement the existing vegetation, and plant list and elevation, what that might look like. So staff recommends approval as submitted.
All right, thank you, Chris. Tim, I saw you out there somewhere. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Can you guys hear me? Hold on.
Yep.
Tim Probst with Park Design Group Architects.
Welcome. And you have 10 minutes to add or detract from things Chris has said?
Sure, I have a couple things. Chris, can we go back to the site plan? Well, there you go. So one additional thing we did is we pushed in the structure away from the road 5 feet. So that's what that hatched area is, to give it more, hide it behind the building more. That also allows us for the footer that we're going to put there. The other thing is the back we have, it's not stuck on the back of the chain link fence because that's going to be a movable gate. And that'll match the structure. I think Chris mentioned that it would be stucco. So if you go to the back elevation, Chris. Okay, so the side wall right there, that will be stucco. And down below in the rear, that will be a chain link fence. And that'll match the metal portion of the structure.
My apologies if I misspoke.
That's all right. That's it.
That's it? All right. Thanks, Tim. Please hang around as we go through the board members. Mr. McAllister, start us off, please.
All right. I think you've done a good job addressing board comments. I think adding the pitch to the roof that faces the street, to me, gives it a little more architectural detail. So I appreciate that. I think the stucco helps blend it in with the building and makes it fit in nicer. One question I had is the metal brackets or columns, is that just galvanized, or is that going to be painted, or?
It's going to be painted to match the rest of the metal. So really, it's just a column cover that goes over. It's just a break up, so it's not a big long run of metal paneling.
Okay.
So it lines with where the columns are. It's basically just a column, so it's kind of like a C cover that goes over.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about the roof? What is? I think I saw where it's a metal roof. Is there color, or
it would match the metal of the walls too.
Oh, okay. Which is painted.
It's painted, right? Yeah. There's no galvan. It's all that painted. It's a dark, not a dark bronze, but it's more of a bronze color, medium bronze.
Okay.
I think it's called Terratone.
Terratone. Okay. I mean, I think you've addressed our comments personally, so I think it looks as nice as a lumber yard rack can look. So.
That's a backhanded compliment if I've ever heard one.
I didn't mean it like that.
Thank you, David. Yeah. Thanks, David. Mr. Karstens, you're next.
Tim, I appreciate that y'all shifted it back away from the road a little bit. I will say I'm on board with the architecturals to date, the comments, and as far as approving the structure and all. I think last time I might have thought even that the structure itself was more of a transparent, but now I know it's a stucco base. I'm going to be a little more adamant about some of this evergreen plant material. I think I'd mentioned maybe trying to cover some of that mid-range, low range before. Just considering we're replicating the side of this building that much more, I'd just like to see some more So I think, the cedars are fine. I would say is, considering you've got, if you can get, I'd say two more of the 12 footers, if they can shore up, that section that's closer to Palmetto Bay Road, I'd feel a lot better about it. So I'd like to request that we add in two more of the keyed B cedar, which is 12 foot with a 4-foot span, just to help cover that edge that's closer to the existing building. But otherwise, I certainly appreciate the additional detail on the manipulation of the roof and the shifting of the structure in general. So thanks.
All right, thanks, Jed. Ms. Lippert.
I agree. I really appreciate that you listened to the concerns that we had. I appreciate that it doesn't look like a off-the-stock lumber yard shelving anymore. I think the massing has greatly improved by the shift in. The roof line change has really helped with the height feel of it. The addition of the stucco base, I think, has really done a lot to help it. So I just want to compliment you. Thank you for listening to us, and I'm on board for approval.
Thanks, Annette. Mr. Molesky?
Yes, thanks. That 5-foot setback that you did, you had mentioned, part of that is obviously for some aesthetic reasons, and then you said it's to allow the footer. In that 5-foot setback, is there any opportunity to do any plantings there, or is that footer going to be such that it won't allow any lower planting? So if someone's driving by in a car and they're at that 3 or 4, height with their eye view.
Right. That's a question where it's in structure right now. So until we know the size of that footer, the intention is, if you go back to that section, that the footer will be buried at least a foot. I don't know how far it's going to stick out. These things tend to be substantial just because it's a big wall that can be blown over. So the intention would that just be, it'd be pine straw all over it. It would be dirt and then pine straw. So until we know what that is, I can't answer that. There could be a possibility to add some, but.
Okay. When I look at the rear elevation, I guess that there's a big lift-up door that I see in the rear elevation that's kind of peeking up over the fence.
Yeah. So that's on that back wall.
Okay.
So if you go, that's in the new section that they're converting. Originally, that was their window section of the store. Now they're converting it to the grilling section. And that's going to be open to basically a storage room in the back if you go to the plan. So that'll match the other door.
That's a roll-up door for like an 18-wheeler kind of thing to load and unload?
Right, exactly what it is. So it's 4 feet off the ground. It matches what's on the other. If you go back to the elevations, there's an adjacent wall. So if you look to the right side elevation, top right, you can see there's another one. It's going to match that. The top right corner. Yeah, right there.
Okay. And the finish on that obviously is probably a metal door then, and you're saying that the finish.
It's a metal door. It'll match that one exactly, except this one will be
medium bronze color, like you had alluded to, or.
It'll be that. Yeah, match that door exactly.
Okay, so whatever that tan color.
Right, the wall color.
Chain link fence to go with the rear elevation, I guess, that shows the chain link fence on there. So it looks like, let's call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, maybe 9 panels. And of those 9 panels, it looks like 3 of those are the ones that are movable and the rest of them are fixed.
That's correct.
So there is an opportunity to have the ones that are fixed be something other than a chain link fence, I'm presuming. Right?
It could be. A chain link fence is not abnormal around here. There's greenery across the street that is all chain link fence, has razor wire. There's another one right by.
Yeah, but we don't want to set that as our precedent.
It's not abnormal, and it's pretty hidden at this point.
Mm-hmm. And are there any colored slats that would go in between the chain link fence just to hide what's on the other side, or is that just open chain link fence?
It'll be open, but again, that faces the. It's going to be pretty. It's not going to be visible. It faces the storage unit in the back. So
And
you
is,
shouldn't be able to see through there from the road unless you're coming the other way.
and is that a like a bronze chain link fence, or is
Yeah,
it the
it'll match it's a bronze material, medium bronze. So it'll match the actual building metal.
okay? But there's no bronze slats that they kind of weave through the chain link fence to provide added privacy. Nothing like that is
Nothing like that.
proposed. Those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, John. Mr. Rimke?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, you're on.
Okay, yeah. Now, I'm on board with all the comments that were previous. I think they've addressed everything that we had our concerns about, and I'm going to approve this.
All right, thank you. Debbie, Ms. Foss?
Relative to what everyone else said, thank you very much for listening to our concerns the last meeting. I'm on board with it, and I would vote to approve it as well.
All right, my turn. I was not at the December 8th meeting, so I'm going to agree with all my fellow board members on their comments, and they all make sense anyway. So I would think the only thing, as I agree with Mr. Karstens, since we have another stucco wall, maybe some lower scale evergreens added. So if I'm going to recommend that Mr. Karstens, if you would like to make a motion and add that as a condition, and then after Mr. Karstens makes a motion, we will have hopefully what's a very brief discussion of the motion before I ask for a second. Excuse me. Mr. Karstens, if you would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I will. Making a motion for approval of Graco Edition DRB 002627-2020 with the following condition: the addition of two 12-foot evergreens, the cedar type B as called out in the plan schedule.
Hey, Judd, hold on one second. Sorry. Chris, did Judd cut out there, or was it just on my end?
It was just on your end.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Judd.
That's okay.
You got through the number, and that was all I heard. Could you do that one more time? Thank you.
No, that's fine. With the following condition, that two additional 12-foot southern red cedars, which are key plant B, be added to the western frontage of the lumber racks along Archer Road to be placed in field along with the rest of the material for optimal coverage. And that is all of my conditions.
Okay, we have a motion for approval with conditions from Mr. Karstens. Any discussion on the motion? All right, do we have a second?
A second.
Second from Ms. Voss. Teresa, would you please call roll for voting?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lippert,
Yes.
Ms. Voss,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Ms. Remke,
Yes.
Mr. Molesky,
Yes.
Mr. Karstens,
Yes.
Mr. Gentleman.
Yes, so motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Tim.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on to next item, Holy Family Catholic Church re-roof, DRB 002629-2020. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting approval of the replacement of the roof with a different color. The existing standing seam metal roof of Holy Family Church Sanctuary building has been leaking and has been repaired several times. over the years with poor results. The church has decided to replace the existing roof with which is a patinaed copper color with a standing seam metal roof in medium bronze. Staff recommends approval as submitted. So you can see the entrance here with the roof and the existing patina. So this does represent a color change, but it's to a medium bronze, which has been approved in the past, and staff finds it in keeping with the design guide and recommends approval.
All right. Sorry. Did you toggle through everything? That was pretty much it, right?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That's it. There is a sample here of the roof color, but it was out, which is a better. It's just not reading very well.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to do this a little different. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Barry, I saw you out there. Do you have anything to add to Chris's narrative, and would you identify yourself for the record, please?
I'm Barry Taylor. I'm with the FWA Group Architects. I have nothing to add unless you have questions.
All right, so stand by. Okay, now, I'm going to cut to the chase on this one. Does anyone on the board have any comments or questions for Barry? Okay, Annette?
I guess, no, hearing that there is a leaking issue, is the detail as it comes over the vertical being proposed to be revised in any way with sort of a coping and a counter flashing, or is that the way it sits behind that vertical cream remaining identical?
No, how the roof is constructed, it goes up to a point at the top, and it comes down. There's a parapet that you can't see that's screened by that stucco facing on the front, but that's a flat section of about 10 foot before you actually get to the copper roof that's there now. So the problem is water's either getting up underneath that part or it's coming in through the seams, but they've made 6 attempts to try to fix it and have not been successful yet. So given that it's a pure copper roof, they don't have the money to replace it as a copper, so they went to the next best thing, which would to go to an aluminum, which basically matches the fascia piece that you see on the porch that extends around the front of the sanctuary now. So it'll basically be that color.
Thank you for the explanation. I just didn't know I couldn't tell that it had that 10-foot horizontal, so I'm good to go.
It's deceptive unless you're in there, because there's some clear story windows that you can see when you're inside the church, but you can't see them from the outside.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the record, it was confirmed by the applicant that there's no change to the parapet or no coping that's going to show up or anything like that. It's literally what we see in the picture of the copper is going to be medium bronze. That confirm that, Barry?
That is correct.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then I will make a motion for approval as submitted for, excuse me, let me get that number back. Holy Family Catholic Church re-roof DRB-002629-2020 for approval as submitted. We have any discussion on the motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Mr. Molesky. Teresa, would you please call roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lippert?
Yes.
Ms. Foss?
Yes.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Ms. Remke?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Karstens?
Yes.
Mr. Gentman?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Good to see you again, Barry. Thanks.
Y'all too. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we move on to new development conceptual, 85 Capitol Drive, Lot 10, DRB 002636-2020. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project was last reviewed by the DRB on December 8th of last year and was withdrawn at the applicant's request prior to a vote by the board. The proposed project consists of a 5,760 square foot building and parking for Dice Air. The property is a 1.16 acre undeveloped site in the Capitol Business Park. The applicant is proposing to install 27 parking spaces to accommodate fleet vehicle parking, and 9 of the spaces are shown to be pervious. The sides and rear of the building will have overhead doors, so paving will be required up to the foundation on both sides of the building. One specimen tree, a 40-inch live oak, is located at the rear of the site. No parking or soil compaction is shown to occur within 15 feet of the trunk of the tree, and low-impact brick pavers will be placed at or above grade under the canopy of the tree as needed to allow traffic circulation at the rear of the site. Stormwater drainage is provided by Capitol Business Park Master Planned Stormwater Detention System. Staff recommends conceptual approval as submitted. So you can see here some pictures, existing pictures of the site. These are the neighbors. The top is across the street and the bottom is adjacent. Again, some neighboring buildings in the area. This is a survey of the site. You can see the specimen oak down here in the corner with the canopy, with the existing canopy. There are some, not specimen, but significant trees at the front of the property. This is the proposed site plan with the building and the parking circulation. It should be noted how the parking has come off the building from the last plan, and there's planting area between the building and the parking. And this represents the pervious pavers here, again, at that specimen oak. A first floor plan for the building, second level floor plan, elevations of the building. The top is the back, the bottom is the front of the building with the sides. Isometrics of the building. And that's it. So based on this, staff feels that it's heading in the right direction for conceptual and appropriate for conceptual approval. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. I see several names for the applicant. Anyone that's present that would like to speak, if they could please identify themselves.
I'm Keith Martelli with Martelli Architects.
Keith, welcome. Anyone
Thank
else with you there?
I not here in my office, but Mr. Dias was going to try and get on. So I don't know if he did or didn't.
It doesn't appear that he's on the meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. Keith, you have 10 minutes to add to or discuss or refute anything in the presentation.
Okay. I'm good right now.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, hang tight, and we'll go through the board, and they may have some questions for you. And we will start, as usual, with Mr. McAllister.
All right. First of all, I think this project's much improved from what we saw last. Really appreciate the effort you put in. I think the building looks a lot more attractive on all sides. I think you've done a good job personally addressing those comments that you received last meeting. The site looks much better and is much improved. Just a couple comments, just a minor thing. It looked like sidewalk connections are a little out of alignment with the door. So you may want to take a look at that. And I also noticed on the plan right side, there's a door that I don't know if you guys planned on providing a hardscape access to it, but it just something to give consideration to. I don't know if it's intended to open up to the landscape, and then that front entry door is just a little out of alignment with the sidewalk. But other than that, I think the site looks great. I think you've addressed a lot of the comments we discussed last time. Of course, we'll be looking for a landscape plan when you come back for final. And I would ask that as much buffer material in the Lego mutton buffer be retained as possible, since, you know, this is sort of a light industrial zoned area, I think. So other sides of the property are, I guess, I mean, it's important to retain as much buffer material as possible, but I'm really going to like to see as much saved on that Lego mutton buffer as possible, since that kind of is the main drag that the public's going to be going down. So other than that, I think it looks great.
All right. Thank you, David. Mr. Karstens?
I will just say amen to Mr. McAllister. I think you pretty much covered everything I was thinking. Good pickups on the site plan overall. But yeah, this is much improved. Appreciate it. Like I said, I look forward to final with the landscape plan. Those treatments around the building, as much as the buffers on the perimeter, I do see that you're calling out an option 2 on the leg of mutton buffer, at least in the site plan that right now, understanding that that is a heavier buffer, especially just that back corner that's a little more visible. But like I said, I'm in alignment with staff and with Mr. McAllister's comments, and I look forward to everybody else's. So thank you.
Thank you, Jed. Ms. Lippert?
I also appreciate how much you listened to our comments from the December review of it. I think it is looking really nice, easy to approve as a conceptual. A couple of comments just to think ahead for final submittal, just making sure on, and I'm looking at A200 right now, showing how awnings are being supported on the various facades. On the rear elevation, I'm assuming we'll be seeing where some downspouts are coming down from that single slope roof in the final submittal. On the front elevation, just looking at really what the scale of the light fixtures wants to be, and perhaps where lighting really wants to be. I don't, just seeing whether one really wants to light Bermuda shutters, or whether it's perhaps the recessed entry volume that would like some light fixtures. So something to just study. And really, in that sense, the same applies to the other side elevations where awning support and scale and location of lighting. Other than that, I think it's a really great development. Thank you for listening. It's going to be a good looking building. Thank you.
Thanks, Annette. Mr. Molesky?
Yeah, thank you. And I really don't have anything new to add. I think it looks great. All you need is a swimming pool, and I'll be ready to move in. Looks very, very good. Thank you.
All right. And thank you, John. Ms. Remke?
I'm on board with everybody else. I think this project is coming along very nicely, and I look forward to our finals. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Ms. Foss?
I'm going to reiterate thanks again to the applicant for listening to our comments of the previous meeting. I think this building looks great, and it's a very easy conceptual to move forward. I agree with staff's comments on the color and the landscaping. And David, Mr. McAllister brought up a good point on the Lego mutton buffer that we want to save that. And that's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Let's have, and I think this was the question, Annette, I think this was your question. I don't know if I understood it. The overhangs above the overhead doors look like they're kind of floating. Are they going to be supported by anything
Well,
visually
the intent
structural?
there is we've got this with a metal building company now, and the builder believes they're going to be able, what they'll do is run a strut across the back and be able to bolt a frame to it to take that cantilever. So that's what we're in the process of right now, is seeing what they're going to require us to do, because they may be able to do all of that through their package. So we're waiting on those details.
Okay.
So that would be the rear
Okay.
and the what I'm calling the right-hand side, where those awnings are. The intent is they're bolted onto the new metal building frame by the metal building company.
I'll throw that one back to the board and see if anybody has any comments on that. You know, because you got these nice big brackets on the, I guess that's the front, the proposed front elevation,
Mm-hmm.
and then the others don't really fit. And all, you know, even if one is a service side, all four sides of the building should, in theory, kind of get the same treatment. So we may want to consider adding something to visually hold those up. And to the board, I like the design. I think it looks great. The one thing that's kind of missing here is sloped roof, which typically is a requirement on projects. Was that discussed last meeting at all? Or would anybody like to discuss that? Everybody's fine with the way it is?
I mean, I'll just chime in. I personally like how it looks, and I think the little slopes that they have coming off of the vertical components of the elevations, I think, I won't say trick your eye, but at least help it read and soften it up so it doesn't read so much like a box or something that's necessarily too ultra contemporary or in that regard. So that's kind of what helped me, those little slope roofs with the brackets, for what that's worth.
Okay. Annette, I'd like your opinion on that, please.
I agree. I mean, keeping in mind this isn't an industrial setting as far as zoning, and, you know, I think an attempt was made via Bermuda shutters, bracketed awnings, to help break up let's say, boxiness of it. So I appreciate that. I'm trying to sort of debate on where I thought it was just lacking structure. My hesitation is to have sort of a tiny little metal bracket show up. So I'm trying to sort of resolve that in my own mind of what I think would make that look best, depending on what the pre-engineered metal building contractor comes back with. But I think, to me, it looks like a nicely detailed industrial building, so therefore, to me, fits into the zoning.
Okay. All right. It's good enough for me. Anybody else want to follow up on anything?
Can I just add to that, Mr.
Yeah,
Gunderman?
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
when we walked around the site, we noticed, and that was kind of with the site photos, there are, you have City Electric Supply is kind of like this kind of setup where it's got the flat roofs and just a metal awning in front. The building across the street, the Oaks, that's just got a mansard wrapping around. So, and then even Project Deepwell is kind of a flat mansard with little gables. So we did try to take into consideration what was going on around there and use a couple of those different elements from the other buildings. Yeah, this is the City Electric Supply building up top. It's kind of the same thing where it's just a very flat roof and, a shed roof in front.
Yeah, There's no shortage of examples of boxy buildings with shed roofs on them on Hilton Head. Most of them were built before the current guidelines.
Absolutely.
And I agree with everybody on the board. I think it's for the neighborhood and for the usage of the building. It's a nice looking building. So I'm not going to refute any of that.
Great.
Just wanted to make sure everybody, since a slope roof requirement is really part of the guidelines, I just wanted to make sure it was discussed and everybody feels comfortable with it. So, all right, I'm done. Anyone else need a second round? Would anyone like to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. McAllister.
I'll move to approve 85 Capitol Drive, Lot 10, DRB 002636-2020 with the following conditions: that an effort is made to retain as much vegetation in the Lego Mutton buffer as possible, that all sidewalk connections should align with their doors, and I believe that's it. Was there any comment about the bracket that I missed, the awnings? Ms. Lippert?
Yeah, it was just that it was really more similar to staff comments saying at final, we will need details on all awning supports. And the only other comment I had was to just study scale of light fixtures.
Okay. I'll amend my motion to study the scale of the light fixtures.
All right. Else? Any further discussion? All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a second from Ms. Foss. Teresa, would you call roll, please?
Ms. Lippert,
Yes.
Ms. Foss,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Ms. Remke,
Yes.
Mr. Molesky,
Yes.
Mr. Karstens,
Yes.
Mr. Gentleman.
Yes. So conceptual approval with conditions passes unanimously. Thank you, Keith, and we look forward to seeing you at final.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, let's see. Oh, that was the last one. All right. Is there any board business? Anyone on the board? Oh, Keith, you can log out. You don't have to hang around.
He did.
Oh, he did. he was frozen on my screen. Let's see here. Part of board business. I'm looking at like David's photo right now, and there's a little star with a question mark. Anybody else got that on theirs? Little star symbol?
Right there.
What is that?
Yes, I see that. I think that's a blue jeans element.
I think he had the best answers today. He won first place.
Is that a thumb like a thumbs up on Facebook or something? Way to go, David! Congratulations.
All right, I'll take it.
All right. Any serious board business? I'll give you all a quick update. I'm in a perpetual crafting mode on a letter to the board of Hilton Head Town Board, on heights, building heights, LMO heights, buffers, etc. It will be ready for the next meeting to discuss. So just to let everybody know that is in the works. But Christmas took it out of me, I think. Now no more excuses. Anybody else? Anything else? All right, Chris, minor corridor report this week?
There is no minor corridor report at this time.
All right, so with no other business before the board, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Everybody, see you in 2 weeks. Thanks.